Good evening, Houdat Nation, and happy Wednesday to our Bayou Blitz family. Happy Wednesday on a Wednesday. We haven't feels like our schedule had been all over the place. So for those of you that have been hanging tight with us and being patient with us, thank you so much for that patience. And an extended thank you, to your patience for those that follow both Bayou Blitz and Under the Dome, and to Alan Ulrich, for my extended mental health week and not, being able to pull off Under the Dome last night. But at least here we are back, and I can't say raring to go, but we're ready to go. Mr. Brendan Boylan, my co-host tonight, ladies and gentlemen, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm good. World Tour continues tomorrow, so trying to get everything together, and then when I get home, you have race week here in Charlotte, which isn't actually in Charlotte, it's in Concord.
Right.
So you'll have a lot of traffic by the house, but it'll be a good time. I think this is a good segue into talking about our friends over at Get Checked or Check Out. I did want to bring this up. I know it's not NFL news, but it's sports news. Really rough day last week in the NBA with the losses of Jason Collins, who played for the New Jersey Nets and the Brooklyn Nets, the first openly gay athlete in North American, the Big Four North American sports. Passed away after his battle with cancer. Additionally, Memphis Grizzlies forward Brandon Clark, who died at 29 years old, same age as me. That one hit home pretty hard for me, just when you see someone past the your age. He passed away from what was what police are saying looked to be a drug overdose. So with heavy hearts, we pass our condolences to family, friends, fans of the players, fans of the teams. But I think that's a really nice segue into, a cause that we're really passionate about, and a group that has continued to support what we do, and hopefully we're showing them the support and love back.
Yeah, and they are truly great people over at Get Checked or Check Out. Their website, folks, is tcynow.org. And please check them out. Like Brendan just said, we've all lost people, that have been close to us, friends, family, loved ones, even acquaintances. Get Checked or Check Out wants to always remind us. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, by the way. So do something good for yourself. Reach out to some people that you haven't talked to in a while, or some people in your life that have been struggling for one thing or another. I know I have been pretty open about my struggles recently. I'm not asking anybody to reach out, but I'm just saying I understand. But more than just mental health, emotional awareness, physical awareness. Keep up on those appointments, folks. Badger your loved ones to keep up on their appointments, comprehensive exams, routine physicals, anything and everything that you could think of, because we want you around for a long, long time. Your loved ones, your friends, your family, they want you around for a long, long time. But Get Checked or Check Out was started over a dozen years ago and put in place to help people and their families. When you get a terrifying medical diagnosis, Get Checked or Check Out will help guide you where to go next. Treatment options, research options, therapy options. Again, mental, physical, emotional, they're all there. And they helped out thousands upon thousands of cases in 2025. We are hoping to significantly increase that number this year. And we're off to a good start in 2026. But the fight never ends. And one of a few fundraisers that Get Checked or Check Out has is the yearly fan cruise. That my family and I have been on for the last 2 years. We went to the Bahamas this year. Stay tuned for through the Bayou Blitz. As soon as we have the exact dates for the 2027 trip, we will let you know. But in the meantime, a new fundraiser for 2026 is you get to party in Paris for a purpose. Join us at the Get Checked or Check Out Foundation in Paris, France, for the New Orleans Saints game against the Pittsburgh Steelers on October 25th. We've been advertising the October 25th Paris game for a while, and talking about it through Get Checked or Check Out since we got back from the Bahamas last month. The opponent has changed. It's now the Pittsburgh Steelers, not the Cleveland Browns. But you could still go, and in addition to a trip of a lifetime, you get to benefit such a wonderful organization. That contains such wonderful people. So again, you get to go to Paris for the Saints game against the Pittsburgh Steelers with the Get Checked or Check Out crew. Contact Tracy Ransom at 225-400-3599 or email GLT by Tracy, TRACEY at gmail.com. Tracy is waiting for your email, waiting for your call. The travel packages that are included for this trip include 5 days of hotel, round-trip airfare, and airport transfers. A deposit will be required, but final payments aren't due until August. So you have a few months, to get your money together and get it all paid off. Just get something together for a short deposit and contact Tracy for details on that. Because I know you should want to go, to Paris. Such a wonderful city, such a wonderful country. For the first NFL game ever in Paris, France. So you're making history, benefiting a great charity, joining a few Saints legends and many fellow members of the Who Dat family, of our Who Dat family, as you get to enjoy a Saints game, overseas fun, and memories, all while benefiting an amazing charity and the incredible people who run it.
Well said, Bobo. Also, I mean, I've been pushing for it. I've been campaigning for it. Having some sort of away trip, a get together for all these folks, and I keep personally petitioning for Charlotte. It'd be nice to have you guys come to my city, but for now, look at those events for the cruise. Look at the events for obviously the Paris trip. And like Bob said, be a part of history. First NFL game ever over in France. So that should be exciting.
And listen, and when we were in the Bahamas, I think it was about 6 weeks ago, there were a handful of us that got together and openly discussed not only a get together for a Saints game in New Orleans, but also an away trip, like you said. The two destinations that people were most talking about were Charlotte and at Baltimore. Now, the Saints play at the Ravens on September 20th. That's a Sunday. And then play at the Panthers on December 13th, also a Sunday. So I do want to get together with you, Brendan, with Shireen, with the guys, with Courtney Roby, Mike Lewis, Tyrone Hughes, Delvin Bro, see what works best for them, because we do want to, have a couple of these city takeovers, whether it's at home in New Orleans, at Carolina, at Baltimore, all of the above. Flex the muscle of Who Dat Nation, flex the muscle of the Bayou Blitz universe. And I think it'll be a blast. And again, we want to get together, organize something, so that way we gather some proceeds and hand it right over to Get Checked or Check Out, tcynow.org.
Absolutely. we have some things to talk about, like that schedule. You brought up 2 games. We're going to talk about some of the news surrounding Taysom Hill, Cameron Jordan. And as I told Bob before we get on the air, it is a little bit of silly season, so we are going to go left, right, up, down, all over the place for this episode. Let's talk Saints schedule. I kind of said it last week. It's not something I make a particularly big deal about when the schedule gets released. It's not something that, really gets me excited one way or another. We're so far away from the season. As we get closer, that'll probably change. But the things that I look for, and I think the things that you were looking for too, Bob, were when are the Saints playing some of these games in cold weather spots? And for the most part, I think the Saints lucked out for the most part. I don't see a game on the schedule that really stands out as like, it's going to be really cold when they go to X. Maybe Chicago on the 22nd of November.
Yeah, at Chicago on November 22nd, and then at Cincinnati on November 29th, Thanksgiving weekend. Those 2 places could be a little bit tricky, latitude wise. I live. I live about the same up north as what Chicago is, and Cincinnati's just a tad further south of us. So I can attest weather can be tricky that year, or that time of year, especially in Chicago off the lake. You can get. I've had Thanksgivings where it's 60, 65 degrees, and you have to have the air conditioning on wherever you're eating your Thanksgiving meals. I've also had Thanksgivings where it's in the 20s. You get a snow, maybe not a major storm, but some snow on the ground through Thanksgiving weekend. So I will attest that there is no guarantee that you will have nice weather, certainly in Chicago on the 22nd, but even in Cincinnati on the 29th.
Yeah. What you said is absolutely true. I think a lot of us are experiencing it this past winter. Some funky winter weather where it was warmer later into the winter, and then got extremely cold in like February. I know here we got back-to-back weeks of ice and snow, which for down here in February is unheard of. But that's just the nature of the beast. So those are the 2 that really jumped out. Obviously, you end the year, 4 of your last 5 are against NFC South opponents. I don't want to say that's become more the theme or more the norm as of late, but I do feel like the NFL has done a better job of scheduling divisional games late in the season. So that's something just to watch out for, depending on what the record is going in those last 4 or 5 games for the Saints, and how those games could turn the tide of potential division championships, whether it be for the Saints or for another team.
Yeah, and a couple other things that jumped out to me on the schedule. There are 3 different points where the Saints have back-to-back away games. Of course, opening up the year at Detroit and then at Baltimore. And then we just mentioned week 11, week 12 at Chicago, at Cincinnati. Then they got 1 game at home against Green Bay, not a pushover, and then they go on the road again for back-to-back weeks. At Carolina, week 14, at Tampa Bay, week 15. So that's 4 of 5 away, during a key stretch of your year, against the Bears, a division champion last year, the Bengals, who most people agree that Cincinnati presents at least a dangerous opponent as long as Joe Burrow is healthy. Then the Packers, at home, a playoff team a year ago. At Carolina, division winner last year, and at Tampa Bay, who I think I feel like the Buccaneers are at least in the start of a rebuild, but they're still good. They've still got some dangerous weapons. And really, and I highlighted this, in an article over on Saints Wire. There's a 6-week stretch starting in week 10, and going through week 15. You have Panthers. Home Panthers, at Bears, at Bengals, home Packers, at Panthers, at Bucks. That's what, four division opponents, three division opponents, and two games against NFC North opponents who could be key when determining tiebreakers. And again, we just talked about during that stretch, 4 of those 5 games you're on the road. So yeah, I don't. That's not a pretty stretch of the schedule. I know people are excited because places like the Pro Football Network and others are saying, oh, the Saints have the easiest schedule in terms of strength of schedule based off of opponents and last year's records. But I mean, and you talk about it all the time, Brendan. Neither you or I pay a whole lot of attention to that because, for example, the Steelers, the Paris game, they were a playoff team a year ago. Not many early prognostications have the Steelers returning to the playoffs. So, Ravens, Lions missed the playoffs, but I don't think anybody thinks that those two opponents are going to be pushovers to start the year. So that's exactly the kind of thing that we mean here.
No, absolutely. Well, and I mean, I say it every time we talk about this. Like, the average turnover of an NFL roster is like 33%. That's a whole new team. And in the case of like the Steelers, you have a new head coach.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be different. Obviously, the news just broke recently that Aaron Rodgers is coming back. That's something we all, I say all, but the two of us kind of assumed was going to happen.
Yeah. The only thing surprising about that was that Aaron didn't extend it into July on his annual pay attention to me tour.
Yeah, and I've said this too. For a guy who did not like Brett Favre so much, it's very odd how much he's been like Brett Favre. At the end of his career. I guess they were just so similar. They butted heads. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, the schedule, like, nothing jumps out. Obviously, we'll dive more in depth as we get closer to the season itself. Before we talk about the uncertain futures of Taysom Hill, Cameron Jordan, and maybe even a little bit of Alvin Kamara as he continues to troll online, I do want to take a second because I don't think I have done this yet, and this is a very selfish thing, but I want to congratulate the Greensboro Swarm on their NBA G League championship. Merchandise came out this week, so of course I snagged one. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but for the poor Charlotte Hornets franchise to have their minor league program win a championship and their summer league team win a championship in the same year, I call that progress.
Hey, listen. Anytime you can call yourself a champion in any aspect of life, that is a major achievement in my book. You're never given a championship. That's the kind of thing. That's the kind of title you have to earn. Much respect and big time congratulations.
Yeah. I was pretty excited about that. And of course, with minor league guys, you end up having a lot of local guys that end up getting a minor league contract because they're local or they live close by. So a lot of these guys I've seen through the high school ranks. So it's pretty cool to see that, and like you said, be able to say championship. Like I said, here in Charlotte, we don't get many of those. The only thing that Charlotte's won over the last 10 years has been they've got like the best minor league baseball stadium in the country for like 7 years in a row. It's beautiful. One of my favorite places, probably my favorite place I've ever called a game. Charlotte skyline in the outfield is beautiful at night. I digress. Taysom Hill, this is something that Bob and I talked about, I think last week. We talked about, Taysom's not coming back, and it seemed more and more evident. And Mickey Loomis confirmed those things this week when talking to the media and letting us know that Taysom Hill does not currently have a contract offer from the New Orleans Saints. Taysom Hill also listed his home in Metairie for sale. Listed for sale for the low price of $2.5 million. So, Bob, you ready to move? I'm just kidding.
Good to know I'll have a place to live if I relocate to the New Orleans area. So,
yeah, right. I mean, that's chump change for us, right?
Right.
So let's start with Taysom Hill. we kind of talked about it last week. We did not anticipate Taysom coming back. We both agreed that there may be opportunities for Taysom halfway through the season, and teams are certainly going to stay in touch just to see where he is physically, where he is mentally. As well. It would not surprise me if Denver makes a run, as a lot of people assume they might, depending on the health of Bo Nix, that Taysom may get a call. Hey, Taysom, we need a guy who can be our short yardage situation, just a good locker room guy. And I could see Sean Payton making that call. And it'll be completely up to Taysom whether he wants to go or not, right?
Yeah.
But Taysom's time in New Orleans appears to be over. Which, even going back to the last home game of the season and that great shot, and I don't know the photographer that got the photo, so I apologize, but that great photo of Taysom running through the tunnel one final time, I think we all knew just based off of his emotions in that game and even his post-game press conference where he said, you just don't know. You have to cherish these things because you don't know when the last time is going to be. I think it was evident then. It became more evident over the summer, and you can call this the final nail if you want. So that poses a question as we're in silly season, Bob. A couple questions. The first question, your favorite Taysom Hill memory. And then the second question we'll get into after your answer.
You know what? And there's so many great Taysom Hill memories. He was just such a fun guy to root for, such an easy guy to root for as a player and as a person. I've always said, in doing so, I would make a slight a criticism towards Taysom Hill as a pure quarterback, but I always said, if you give me 52 Taysom Hills and a real quarterback, I may never lose a football game.
Oh, yeah.
That's how strongly I feel. Yeah. There are two games that stand out to me. Instead of singular moments, just two games, because as we all know, we would watch Taysom Hill, with Herculean efforts take over several games, and moments over the years. The wild card loss in the Superdome to the Minnesota Vikings, the Kyle Rudolph push-off game. In that game, the Saints had the talent to absolutely curb stomp the Vikings, but the majority of that team didn't bother waking up until the second half. Well, Taysom Hill wasn't one of those guys, and and I think I've written it, when we were writing together for that network who shall not be named, because I don't feel like going on an FU tangent tonight. Taysom Hill single-handedly kept the Saints in that game against the Vikings. And I've never thought that gets talked about enough, mainly because the Saints didn't ultimately win the football game. And then the other game that will always stand out to most Saints fans is that Thanksgiving game against the Atlanta Falcons. Running, rushing, throwing, receiving. He special teams gunner. I think he even pulled off a fake punt in that game, but don't quote me on that. Or maybe a punt block. That encapsulated what kind of player Taysom Hill was, what kind of player Taysom Hill means to a football team. And it's those kind of games and those kind of moments that will always be my lasting memory of Mr. Hill.
Yeah, those are good ones. First one that comes to mind for me, I can't even tell you what game or what moment, but my Nana texts me. She doesn't know anything about football for the most part. She'll throw a Saints game on because my father and I are Saints fans, and she texted me and was like, "Who's this number 7?" She's like, "I love him. He's always smiling. He's always so happy." And that became her favorite player, even though she doesn't really watch the games or anything. She'd ask, on a Monday, she'd call me, how'd my buddy Taysom do this week? So that'll always be a lasting memory. Just the fact that, someone who did not watch football was able to turn on one game, and Taysom just such a likable guy that even someone who didn't watch sports was like, "Oh, this guy's easy to root for." So that'll always stick with me. I think my favorite memory, and it's a stretch of games, and you're going to disagree, and this is one of the few times we disagree, is Taysom's like 5 starts at quarterback in 2020, right?
Yeah.
2020. And that will go down as one of my favorite memories for 2 reasons. One, we were writing and covering the team for Sports Illustrated at the time. So I did have a lot of fun with my fantasy football articles because he was still listed at tight end. So you can play him at tight end and get just a ridiculous amount of points because he was starting at quarterback. So that was like a fault on many fantasy football fronts. For the first, I think it was 3 games of that stretch. I think after game 2 or 3, they ended up making him just a quarterback. There's a couple games that put people in the playoffs and all sorts of stuff. That was a lot of fun. But also it was so different, right? We had seen Drew all of these years surgically move the ball down the field, tear apart defenses in a way that only Drew Brees could. And then all of a sudden you're like, ooh, this is new. This is a new car. This is fun. This is different. And I really enjoyed that because it was Tebow-esque. We talked about Tebow a couple weeks ago too. It was Tebow-esque in the way that the offense was ran without the horrifying results of 3 quarters, right? It was college football. And there was something very enjoyable about that. And I've been on record on this show and in articles saying, like, I really want a mobile quarterback. I think that Tyler Shuck brings some mobility. He's not a mobile quarterback, but some mobility. And I think that's exciting. So I really enjoyed that period for Taysom to be able to, kind of live out the childhood dream of being an NFL starting quarterback. But obviously just some of the plays he would make. And you and I talk about this, and this as a Hall of Fame coach. The players that give a damn make it a lot more fun to coach and a lot more fun to watch. So to your point, if I had 50, you said you had 52 Taysom Hills, you might never lose. It's like, yeah, if I had a team of a ton of guys that were like, I give a damn and I want to win, and I'm going to do everything I can to win a game, whether it be football, checkers, just the competitiveness. There's a term used here that I love and hate, but like the competitive joy. I have a love-hate relationship with the term competitive joy, so all of you guys can bookmark that and use that against me. But it's true.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be competitive. It's another thing to be joyful as you compete and use that in your favor. And I think Taysom embodied that. And whether this is it or whether he gets a chance somewhere else to tag on to a team for a title run, I'm happy for him. That goes into the second question, though, and one that this is going to be a little bit of a deeper pull or a deeper dive into your brain log, and that is which Saints player who left via free agency hurt the most. So obviously Drew Brees off the table because that was retirement. Jimmy Graham off the table because he was traded. But a guy who just either wasn't offered a contract or walked away. Which one hurt the most?
I guess I should be grateful you took trades off the table because Graham hurt a lot.
I remember how shocked I was more than
anything.
Like I was like, this can't be real.
Also takes off Pat Swilling, one of my favorite Saints of all time. Because Pat was traded to the Detroit Lions. It's still bittersweet for me to talk about because it is also a trade that ultimately netted the New Orleans Saints Hall of Fame offensive tackle Willie Roaf in the following year's draft. So, the The easy answer is Ricky Jackson.
Yeah.
Or one of the easier ones is Ricky Jackson.
And he got a ring out of it.
But he got and I was happy he got a ring, but he got a ring with the flippin' San Francisco 49ers.
I know.
And I say this all the time. Yes, I hate the Falcons. I hate the Falcon fans. But to me, a more experienced Saints fan, I have more hatred for the 49ers because, in my opinion, the 49ers cost the Saints a lot more over the years than what the Falcons did. They'd have had more division titles, than what they had under Mora, which was only one, during a fantastic 6-year stretch. If not for the 49ers, the Saints undoubtedly would have been a number 1 or at worst a number 2 seed a couple of times in the NFC playoffs. Maybe propelling them to a Super Bowl run. I mean, hindsight is always 20/20. So yeah, I mean, Ricky Jackson for me was probably the most painful. With Demario, I'm not ready to talk about Demario in the painful sense yet because the wound is still too fresh, but that one hurts. Pierre Thomas, also very painful for me. Now, Pierre was at the end of his career, and I'm not even, when he left and went to ended up signing with Washington in 2015. I'm not even certain PT made it through a whole season. And it was similar. It was similar to what we've seen with Taysom. Pierre's last season in New Orleans, he wasn't the same. The nicks and the minor injuries over the years. And just PT's full out effort every time he stepped out on the football field caught up with him. So physically he wasn't the same, but emotionally it still hurts when you turn the page. So for me, if we're just talking about quiet free agent departures, not outright retirements, not trades. Has to be those two guys, Ricky Jackson and Pierre Thomas.
There's a guy you passed on that I thank you for letting fall right into my lap. Mark Ingram hurts.
Yeah,
that'll always hurt, and I know that. And I've said it a billion times, I think Latavius Murray is one of the most underrated Saints of all time because the team didn't, go on and make, make these huge runs, but he was super effective in that replacing that spot. But I think more than anything, the way it happened, and especially as we found out more after the fact with Mark Ingram and that, I don't know what you want to call it, fumble, I guess, of that situation. That one hurt just because it felt like you were taking a really key locker room piece out. And again, Latavius was really good in that spot. But I would have loved to see Mark be a lifer. And I know he ended up bouncing, from Baltimore to Houston and coming back, but I would have loved to see him be there the entire time. So Mark was one. After that, I can't think of a guy off the top of my head where it was like, man, that was a huge free agency loss. A lot of guys, like you said, it was more quiet towards the end of their career, or you have a couple like what ifs. The Chris Ivories of the world, right? He was not traded, but right, yeah, it was a free agent and went to New York. Like the Chris Ivories, like didn't hurt, but it was like, oh, well, what if? Delvin Bro always is like, well, what if he didn't get hurt? What if that situation didn't, whatever. But the writing was on the wall, of what was going to happen with that situation as well.
Quinn Early was a personal favorite of mine and a pretty productive receiver in New Orleans. When free agent, basically during Quinn's career in New Orleans, for those of you not old enough to remember, the NFL didn't always have free agency, and when they did, there was like a 2 or 3 year stretch. Excuse me, where it was called Plan B free agency, and franchises would only have to designate, I think it was 10 or 12 players on their entire roster. as expiring contracts. We no longer have their rights. Other teams have the right to bid on them. Well, and after 2 or 3 years of that, it was finally, and this was Reggie White helped spur this on. Nope. When my contract expires, if I choose not to sign with my current team, I am a free agent, free to negotiate with, at the time, all 27 other NFL teams. And of course, that obviously expanded. That happened during Quinn Early's time in New Orleans. And, Quinn ultimately left the Saints. He joined the Saints as a Plan B free agent from the San Diego Chargers. Thank you, Chargers. But then, free agency as we know it now, kind of morphed with it while he was a Saint, and he ended up with Jim Kelly and the Buffalo Bills. And Quinn proved he had a few very productive years towards the end of his career. So Quinn Early is not a real memorable name to a lot of Saints fans, but one of my favorites. And Delvin Breaux is a great example too. A personal favorite of both you and me.
Yeah, Keith Kirkwood always.
Sure.
Hurt me personally that he didn't come back to New Orleans for the 100th time. But yeah, I thought that would be an interesting trip down memory lane. But to your point, there is only a 30-something year period that we can really talk about when it came to the restrictions I put on that with just free agency. But yeah, some of those hurt, obviously, and the Taysom's going to hurt. DeMario we'll get into at some point, but that one hurts as well. Vilma walked, but he never played for another team, right?
No, he didn't. And
I wouldn't count that one.
Same with Thomas. I think
Mike
Thomas released?
I think he was released from his contract.
I think he was.
But again, the writing was on the wall, right? In that situation with Mike Thomas.
And Vilma too. Vilma had significantly slowed up.
Right, because then you got Lofton after that?
Yeah.
Lofton. You chuckle. Chris Lofton, man. That's a good like NFL grid name. Falcon and Saint. Joe Horn? Can I throw Joe Horn out there to anybody?
Yeah.
Going to Atlanta in 2007.
Lance Moore, same. Not straight to Atlanta. He ended up in Pitt. I don't remember whether it was Pittsburgh, Detroit, or Detroit. Okay. But yeah, Lance Moore leaving. A lot of us still thought Lance could play. The numbers didn't necessarily bear that out, but Lance was definitely a fan favorite and personal favorite. Same with Joe. And we've talked to Joe before. And Joe kind of outlined his end in New Orleans, and it wasn't pretty. So that kind of sprinkles some salt, into the wound as well.
Yeah, that Atlanta year was weird for Joe, but interestingly enough, and I'm sure some of you guys have seen the clip, Arthur Blank meeting with J.C. Horn for the first time, told J.C. how much Joe meant to the development of Roddy White, who I know a lot of Saints fans love. But I thought that was very interesting to say, like, after being there for a year, he really helped develop a guy who ended up being one of the better receivers in Atlanta's franchise history. So I think that's also a tip of the cap to Joe Horn.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about some current Saints. Or one's still on the roster and one is floating somewhere in the world of we don't knows yet. But I guess we'll start with Cam. I still don't think there, actually, I want to start with Kamara because I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about when it comes to Alvin Kamara. He's under contract.
Right.
I know the comments from Mickey have been a little weird about the whole, we're still in that process of reviewing the roster. Just a lot of, we say coach speak a lot. That is a lot of just front office speak.
Yeah.
Still, and yeah, I mean, they do that with every position, every player. We're still in the same position we were 3-4 weeks ago when it comes to Alvin Kamara. And I know he posted a picture of him at the beach or the golf or whatever in a Dallas shirt, and people, look, I would not be surprised if Alvin Kamara is somewhere in my backyard this weekend, being a ambassador for
Yeah.
NASCAR. So if I see him in Charlotte this week wearing another shirt of another team, I'm not going to think anything of it. I'm really not. He's just doing what he's always done, and that's just mess with people because he enjoys it. And he has for a long time. He really has. For the entire time we've covered his career, he's had some enjoyment with just being a little bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? What it slipped my mind. Yeah, he has fun messing with people. He's a jokester.
Yeah, he taps the beehive. He doesn't poke it. He doesn't poke it. He doesn't kick at it. He taps at it and kind of giggles.
Stir the pot. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's not like I'm full. It's like when you put sugar in your coffee, but you don't stir it. Like he just puts the sugar in the coffee. It's up to you to stir the cup. He's just putting it in there for you to do what you want with it. So yeah, I don't really want to talk that much about it. Like I'm aware of it. Bob's aware of it. You guys at home are aware of it. It is what it is. It's the same situation we've been in for a month. It's
and we've addressed what Kellen Moore said about it. I think the previous week, what Kellen and Mickey were basically both saying is Alvin Kamara is still on this roster. There's nothing to talk about. Next question. And I wish they would have both just said that.
That would be great.
Yeah. Because everything else, and we've already talked about it. It's pretty clear. Pretty clear. Alvin is not the featured weapon in this offense. Kellen Moore identified the running back formerly known as ATN for that. It's equally clear that Kellen has to figure out how to use Kamara. I didn't think he did a very good job of that last year. Now Alvin's woeful, and I mean pathetic numbers. And part of that's on Alvin too. Lack of offensive line and the way Moore used them. That was a triple fork. I mean, it is on Kellen Moore to figure out how to use Alvin wherever he's going to be the most effective. Outside of that, I don't think I wouldn't be jaw-droppingly shocked if Kamara were moved via trade post June 1st, but I don't think it'll happen. We keep saying it, and we've said it for months. Even after the signing of Achane, we believe Alvin Kamara is going to be on this roster for 2026, and that will almost certainly be his last year as a Saint. Beyond that, we'll have those conversations next year at this time.
Right. And unless he just absolutely dazzles, I think I'm in line with you. Let's talk about Cam Jordan. So Mickey did confirm that Cameron Jordan has a contract offer from the Saints, which then had some people go, what does that mean? He's just sitting on the offer? Yeah. Do I blame him? No. It's what a good business person does. They listen to everything. They evaluate their options. And I think Bob brought this up last week or maybe the week before, and I think it was an excellent point that kind of went under the rug. You don't think that Cam is going to use the multiple resources that he has, not just with the New Orleans Saints, but across the league, to try to get an insight or an intel for what the Saints think of the edge rusher that they just picked up in trade? Because if he's hearing, the Saints are really impressed with the guy who was a former top 10 pick, that then changes your perspective on, how many snaps am I going to get? Right. He's going to ask questions. He's going to reach out to different people. This is going to sound very, I don't want to say messed up, but kind of, I guess, messed up. You also don't think he's going to wait till the first few weeks of OTAs or camp because injuries happen. Unfortunately, non-contact injuries happen. Because you don't think the Saints are going to be a lot more desperate or up their offer if one of those guys gets hurt? You don't think that I'm just saying the Kansas City Chiefs with these links. You don't think the Chiefs are going to up an offer if someone gets hurt in OTAs and is out for the season? I mean, I think Cam's doing what's best for Cam. And I can't fault him for that. Of course I want him back in New Orleans. I think anybody who's a Saints fan says, yeah, I want this guy to be a lifer. And that's what I think Cam wants. Some part of Cam wants that as well. But Cam's also going to look for what's best for Cam. And I don't fault him for that at all at this stage of his career.
No, not at all. And look at it this way too, folks. The New Orleans Saints don't need Cam Jordan in OTAs and minicamp.
No.
They know what Cam Jordan can do. Brandon Staley knows how he would want to use Cam Jordan if Cam Jordan were on the team. So this does give the Saints an opportunity to take a more detailed look, or more specific look rather, at Tyree Wilson, at Michael Heldman. They pretty much know what they have in Chris Rumph and Carl Granderson, but Cam Jordan isn't around right now to take those mini camp reps. No, Cam never got a lot of practice reps anyway, but he got more than what the average 10, 12, 14-year veteran usually does, because Cam likes to play football. Cam isn't taking those snaps. You can get your closer looks at Tyree. I forgot Anthony Jennings, him too. Rumph, Granderson. So I really never thought that, once Cam Jordan wasn't signed immediately after the draft, I'm like, well, if they do re-sign him, it ain't going to be until after OTAs now, because they want to look at who else they have at the position. And outline themselves. The debate, and I've been part of it, in articles. The debate has been raging. What's the Saints' biggest need? And I keep saying edge rusher, and I'm going to keep saying that until it's not. If they re-sign Cam, then to me that need dissipates a little bit, because Cam can still play. He proved that. But like you said too, Brandon, like we've talked about on here, Cam's a businessman. He sees the trade that they just made for Tyree Wilson. Tyree Wilson is a pass rusher. I would be frankly surprised with the way this roster is constructed now. No Cam Jordan. I would be surprised if Tyree Wilson was an early down starter. That probably goes to Granderson, maybe even Rumph, guys that could play the run a little bit better. So if Cam's contract offer, whatever that is, was similar to the restructure last year, where it was restructured, if you folks remember, and Jordy Hallberg and I talked about this on Tuesday morning. It was restructured to where Cam's base was cut significantly down, basically as far down as what it could be. And in lieu of that, they listed a whole bunch of incentives for him to hit. Now, fortunately for Cam, he hit them, so he got his money. But you have Tyree Wilson now, in theory, taking up some of your pass rush snaps. Carl Granderson is still there, and while Granderson has never been a consistently productive starter, he's still a good rotational player. That's another guy taking reps. Chris Rumph, Anthony Jennings, they're good against the run. What if Mike Heldman, the rookie, undrafted rookie from Central Michigan, what if he dazzles in camp, and he's one of the Saints undrafted success stories? All that takes place. All of a sudden, there ain't a lot of opportunities for Cam Jordan. Now, if Cam's still on the roster, he's still going to contribute. But all of a sudden, Cam's looking and saying, I'm not going to get as many, certainly not early on, as many opportunities as a pass rusher, because they want to see what they got in Tyree Wilson, who's in a contract year.
Mm-hmm.
Rumph, Granderson, that he could play in any situation, long as you limit his snaps. Rumph, Jennings, they're good against the run. Does that limit Cam Jordan's participation on early rundowns? Probably. So, Cam's a businessman too, and he sees that. Yeah, it's dollar signs, but it's also he wants to play. And I still believe that after OTAs, or at least between the OTA minicamp sessions and training camp, they do get Cam signed, but it makes sense for all sides involved to not get it done now. I did find it interesting, though, that Mickey Loomis admitted they had a contract offer on the table. And I kind of suspicioned on Jordy Haltberg's ESPN show. I'm like, for them to publicly say those words, they could have very easily said, you know what, we're still in contact with Cam, the two parties, our party and his party. We're still talking a lot. But not, nothing set in stone. They could have said that. They didn't. They said, we have a contract offer to him on the table. That's telling me, and I might have been reading too much into that, but that's kind of telling me, yep, we made a contract offer to Cam, and that's that. If he doesn't take it, we're moving on. Is that maybe what you got out of it?
I think I took more of it as, and you have to think about it that way, right? Like, what is Mickey doing? Like, he's playing a card here.
Sure.
I think it was a card to maybe take some of the pressure off of himself that he's feeling from fans. One, let him know. But two, I don't want to say make Cam the bad guy, but kind of spin it and say, well, the ball's in his court.
Yeah.
Like, if Cam doesn't come back, it's not because we didn't offer him. It's because Cam didn't want to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of took that from it. I also took perhaps my reading into it of, we want him here. We want him a part of OTAs, or we want him here now, and that's his choice. So kind of hand in hand, but that here, like I just said, I think it'd be smart for them to get a look at everybody, but maybe they really do want him in the So kind of pointing the finger back at Cam is kind of what I took from it. But to your point, I still don't see something getting done between like now and June? When's mandatory OTAs? June.
I think the second weekend of June, like 12th, 13th, 14th, something like that.
Sounds right. Like I could see something getting done during mandatory OTAs.
Mm-hmm.
But this is still not like, we're not going to get on this podcast next week and have breaking news. Probably. Emphasize probably.
Yeah.
So, because you never know. Because I said that, now we're going to have breaking news. But I don't foresee a situation where we're going to have breaking news for you next week on the Kamara front, or not that there really is any news to report, or the Cameron Jordan front. I just don't see that happening. So it's kind of where we stand with things right now. We'll start having some more in-depth conversations about some other things. Like I said, we're kind of in the next couple of weeks. We're kind of in silly season where we could talk about all sorts of things while we wait for, actual football activities to start. So it'll be fun. I do want to hear your guys' thoughts, your comments. Like, drop some. If there's something random you want us to talk about, by all means, talk about it. I mean, we had a show, I think last summer, maybe the summer before, where we just talked about the 11 Saints. Like, I'm more than happy to just have random conversations about whatever you guys feel like you want us to talk about, because it's fun.
Oh yeah, and we're gonna get guys like Jim Everett. I mentioned Quinn early. It's been a while since Quinn and I talked. Want to get him back on the show. Irv Smith and I chatted the other day briefly. Want to get him back on the show. Obviously, our get checked or check out guys. Courtney Roby, Tyrone Hughes, Michael Lewis, Delvin Bro. Going to get them on too. We don't get me wrong. We love to get them on during the season because it's always great to get their analysis. But I personally just love talking with these guys. Yeah. Just sitting back and bullshitting with them, about their career, about what they're up to now. both their families and their businesses or charities that they represent. And off season is a really fun time to do that because you're not as structured. You don't have a game to talk about that just happened or a game to talk about, that you have to analyze coming up. And again, all those guys, and Willie Whitehead's another one. All those guys are outstanding at doing that, but I like catching up with them and talking to them about their careers, and we get more time to do that when we do it this time of year.
Absolutely. We'll have some of those things coming up for you guys. In the meantime, Bob Rose, you have some articles that should be read, and some people who should support your wonderful work over there with Saints Wire USA Today publication. I just flashed it up on the screen, but for people who are maybe just listening to the audio, where can people find you and your work on the World Wide Web?
Well, I haven't been a completely absentee writer, this May, but I'm operating at about third of my normal capacity. So thank you to John Sigler and those other guys at Saints Wire, for picking up the slack. But I am going to give myself a kick in the proverbial butt, soon and get back to hard and heavy work. But yeah, I mean, all my articles, all of our articles, you can read through the Saints Wire. You could find it through usatoday.com or the USA Today Network site, but it's just easier to find Saints Wire on the regular internet and all social media platforms. And as always, I continue to publish all of my articles on my personal social media pages at BobbyR2613 and Bob Rose over on Twitter. And like Brendan said, if you guys, and I know Brendan gets them too. I get a lot of messages from people all year round, just usually asking me different questions. Hey, what have you heard about this situation or that situation, or what do you think? We want to hear your ideas too, for show ideas, for content ideas. Just because, and we always talk about the Bayou Blitz being your show and we're just your mouthpieces. This is one of the ways that we mean. What do you want to see us do more of? Who do you want to see us talk to? When we talk to them, what do you want to see? What do you want to hear us talk about? Reach out to us, and and let us know. Since we're asking you to do that, I'm going to ask you again. Go to tcynow.org. That's the get checked or check out website. Donate a little bit. Whatever you can swing, every little bit helps. And again, get checked or check out wants to remind everybody, keep up on those appointments, both for yourself and your loved ones, not just physical, but mental as well, your routine physicals as well as comprehensive exams, and reach out to a person or two, see if you can make it. We all think about people during the course of our day. Sometimes it's people that we see or hear from every day or every week. Sometimes it's, you know what? I wonder how so-and-so is doing. I haven't talked to them in a couple months. Pick up the phone, at least shoot a text or an email and reach out. Guarantee you, it'll make their day. And obviously the best way that you could help get checked or check out is by treating yourself to a vacation. Go to Paris for that Saints Steelers game. We dropped the contact info earlier in the show, but if you need it again, either rewatch our show or reach out to Brendan or I. We have the information for you, and let us know what you want to do for another get together during the regular season too. The more opinions, the more thoughts that we get on that, the more ideas that we can take to Shireen and kind of get this thing organized. Again, we get to hang out and party together, and we get the benefit of great charity in the process. Life don't get better than that.
No, it doesn't. Does not at all. I'll keep that down there for the rest of our show as I sign us off. For me, you can catch me just about everywhere at BT Boylan. I am looking forward to meeting you guys in person, whether that be at a game here in Charlotte, whether we do an event for a game in New Orleans, or if we can, as Bob's has told me, if we can get my butt on the cruise, we can all link up there as well. So we're looking forward to those things. We're looking forward to more silly season, more Saints talk, and of course, another episode of the Bayou Blitz podcast next week. So until then, find peace, spread love, practice positivity, and we will see you next week for another edition of the Bayou Blitz. See you then.